Imagine the following scenario. It is late at night, your family is already all tucked up in bed, and you find yourself alone in front of your computer, innocently browsing the internet. Perhaps you're just catching up on the day's news, or perhaps you're just picking up on some unread emails. You've had a tough day at your place of work, so there's some tension that's weighing with you. Maybe something's troubling you that's causing you some concern and even anxiety, all of which translates into a certain degree of frustration inside of you. And perhaps you're just tired, spent physically and mentally. And what makes it all the worse is that it's not something you feel you can share with your wife, because she too had a difficult day, looking after the family and a colicky baby, having to cope with a washing machine that packed up earlier that morning, having to do shopping for the family in between laundry baskets, and a stack of bills that still haven't been paid, and a whole lot of other things. You know that because you heard all about it the moment you stepped into the front door. So the last thing that she wanted was for you to pile any of your frustrations onto her. Now, does that perhaps sound familiar to you? I'm sure we've all been through it at some point in our lives. If this particular scenario doesn't quite fit your situation, then think of some example that may approximate the one that I've just sketched for you, so that at least you can play along with the rest of us. Okay. So you're sitting there quietly browsing the internet when, suddenly, and without you even looking for any of this stuff, this window pops up onto your screen, uninvited, but nevertheless it's there, right in front of your nose. Here's a very desirable, extremely sexy woman inviting you to come into her boudoir and to be intimate with her. Well, in your mind at least. Not that what she's prepared to offer you is going to demand much imagination. Now remember, you're a Christian, right? So what do? Because guys, let's be honest here and admit that there is something buried somewhere deep inside all of us that wants to say yes. Some part of us just seems to be drawn to this kind of thing. Now, if you don't agree with me on that, then I want to tell you that either you are self-deceived, you are lying to yourself, or you already find yourself in that enviable place where I'm going to try and guide you to in this discussion. But that there is some part of us that want to say yes is just a fact of who we are. So here you're faced with a dilemma. What do? Do you click yes to allow yourself to be seduced by this very sensual, very sultry, very sexy siren and become intimate with her, even if it's only in your imagination? Or do you do the boring thing and click no, only to add to your already overwhelming levels of frustration? And so you begin to rationalize. You know that what you want to do is wrong, but come on, just how wrong is it really? No one needs to know about your little imaginary dalliance, and after all, no one's going to get hurt. Your wife's certainly not interested in any of your sexual needs right now, so it's all up to you. But what about God? Well, what about God? We all know that He's a forgiving God. And isn't it so that where sin reigns, grace will abound even more? In any event, when these things were written about in the Bible, there was no internet, no television, and we certainly didn't have any full-color magazines pasted on every bookshelf, or giant billboards plastered all along the roadside that shout sex in our faces. So, come on, what's the big deal? I mean, let's get real here. This is, after all, the 21st century. No longer are we caught up in the dark ages. Sex is no longer the taboo it used to be. We're now enlightened about these things. And after all, we're talking about things that come as naturally to us as hunger to a hungry man or thirst to a thirsty man.